The arena lights burned bright overhead as Jiwoo stepped onto the combat platform. Around her, thousands of aliens from dozens of worlds watched and waited. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some were made of something that looked like living crystal. All of them had come to watch the fights. Jiwoo was human. She was 28 years old and had trained her whole life for this moment. The sector championships happened once every 5 years, and fighters from 47 different species competed for the title. No human had ever won. Most humans never made it past the first round. She wore simple black training clothes. Her dark hair was tied back tight. Her hands were wrapped in the traditional way her grandmother had taught her, even though most fighters now used modern gloves. The wraps were red, the color of her family's school. Across the platform stood Quen. He was Tarvelian, nearly 7 feet tall with skin that shimmered like diamond. His people had bones made of crystalline structures that were supposed to be unbreakable. Quen had won 12 major tournaments. He had never lost a fight that lasted longer than 5 minutes. The referee, a floating orb of energy, announced the rules in 17 languages. Jiwoo barely listened. She had heard them 1,000 times in training. No weapons, no killing. Fight until one fighter surrenders or cannot continue. The medical teams could fix almost anything, so fighters were encouraged to push their limits. The orb's light turned green. The match began. Quen moved fast for someone so big. He rushed forward with his arms spread wide, trying to grab Jiwoo and use his size advantage. This was standard Tarvelian fighting strategy. Get close, grab the opponent, squeeze until they give up. Jiwoo stepped to the side. Her movement was small and precise. Quen's massive hands closed on empty air. He turned, surprised, and that was when Jiwoo struck. Her hand moved in a pattern her uncle Hyunwoo had drilled into her since she was 5 years old. Palm strike to the elbow joint, 2 fingers to a specific point on the ribcage, then a sharp twist of her whole body as she struck Quen's shoulder with her other hand. The sound that came from Quen's body was wrong. It was not the crack of a normal break. It was more like glass shattering in slow motion, a high-pitched ringing that spread from his shoulder down through his arm. Quen screamed and fell to his knees. His left arm hung at an impossible angle. Through his translucent skin, Jiwoo could see his crystalline bone structure breaking apart into smaller and smaller pieces, like a window hit by a stone. The cracks kept spreading even after she had stopped touching him. The referee orb turned red. Medical teams rushed onto the platform. Jiwoo stepped back and bowed the way her grandmother had taught her. Show respect to every opponent, even in victory. The fight had lasted 17 seconds. In the medical bay beneath the arena, things went wrong very quickly. The Tarvelian doctors tried to put Quen's arm in a regeneration tank. This was standard procedure. The tank could regrow lost limbs, heal shattered bones, even repair brain damage. But when they pulled Quen out 6 hours later, his arm looked exactly the same. The cracks had not healed at all. They tried advanced cellular reconstruction. They tried quantum stitching. They tried techniques from 15 different medical traditions. Nothing worked. The damage Jiwoo had caused existed at some level their technology could not reach. Quen's arm was permanently destroyed. News of the fight spread fast. By the next morning, every sports network in the sector was showing the 17-second match on repeat. Medical experts appeared on talk shows trying to explain what had happened. Most of them admitted they had no idea. Jiwoo sat in her small room at the fighters' quarters and tried not to watch the news. Her uncle Hyunwoo sat across from her drinking tea. "You did nothing wrong," he said quietly. "You used the techniques I taught you. The techniques your grandmother taught me." "I broke him," Jiwoo said, "permanently." "You won the fight." Hyunwoo set down his cup. "That is what you trained to do. The rules say the medical teams can fix anything. How were you supposed to know they could not fix this?" His daughter was in the crowd. "I saw her screaming when he fell." Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment. Then he stood and walked to the window. Outside, the city stretched for miles, a mix of human buildings and alien architecture. This was Earth's main spaceport, where dozens of species lived and worked together. "Our family kept the old ways alive," Hyunwoo said. "After the digital collapse destroyed most of Earth's records, we saved what we could. The martial arts books, the training scrolls, the techniques that humans developed over 10,000 years of fighting each other. Maybe we should have let them stay lost," Jiwoo said. "Maybe." Hyunwoo turned back to her. "But we did not. And now you are in the sector championships. and you have a chance to show the galaxy what humans can do. What happens next is your choice. But remember why your grandmother fought. Why I fought. We were always the small ones. The weak ones. We had to be smarter and more precise than everyone else just to survive. There was a knock at the door. A Keltharian official stood in the hallway. Her name was Vexel, and she was part of the Combat Federation's Rules Committee. Ms. Jiwoo, Vexel said. Her translator device made her voice sound flat and mechanical. I need to ask you some questions about your fighting style. Jiwoo let her in. Vexel sat down and pulled out a data tablet. She played the fight recording, then played it again in slow motion. What exactly did you do to Quen's arm? Vexel asked. I struck 3 specific points in a specific order, Jiwoo said. It is a technique called bone-breaking flow. It disrupts the structural integrity of the skeletal system. On humans? Yes, on humans it breaks bones very badly. The breaks are hard to set properly without surgery, but they heal. Why does it not heal on Tarvelians? I do not know, Jiwoo said honestly. I have only fought humans before this. Vexel made notes on her tablet. Are there other techniques like this in human martial arts? Many, Hyunwoo said before Jiwoo could answer. Humans have studied how to damage the body for thousands of years. We know every weak point, every vulnerable structure, every way to make someone stop fighting. I see. Vexel stood up. Ms. Jiwoo, you have 2 more fights scheduled this week. Are you going to use these techniques in those fights? Jiwoo looked at her uncle. He nodded slightly. Yes, she said. These are the techniques I know. If the Rules Committee wants to ban them, they can ban them. But until then, I will fight the way I was trained. Vexel left without another word. The second fight was in 3 days. Jiwoo's opponent was Cress, a Vorlian with 6 arms and a nervous system that could process information faster than any human brain. Vorlians were considered nearly unbeatable in hand-to-hand combat because they could see and react to attacks before most species could even finish throwing a punch. Hyunwoo spent 2 days teaching Jiwoo a technique called sensory cascade. It was designed to overload an opponent's nervous system by striking nerve clusters in rapid sequence. Your grandmother used this exactly once, Hyunwoo said as they practiced. She was fighting in the underground rings during the Unification Wars. Her opponent was a man with cybernetic enhancements that made him faster than normal humans. She hit him 7 times in 2 seconds and his enhancements burned out. He survived, but he never fought again. Will it work on Vorlians? Jiwoo asked. We are about to find out, Hyunwoo said. The night before the fight, Jiwoo received a message on her datapad. It was from Quen's wife. The message was short. Why did you do this to him? He was just competing. Now he cannot hold his children. The doctors say he will never heal. Why? Jiwoo stared at the message for a long time. She did not know what to say. Finally she typed, I am sorry. I did not know this would happen. The reply came instantly. You are sorry? That does not fix his arm. That does not give my children their father back. Jiwoo turned off her datapad and lay in the darkness thinking about her grandmother. The old woman had died 5 years ago, but Jiwoo still remembered her final words. The techniques I taught you are dangerous. Use them only when you must, and never forget that every opponent you face is someone's child, someone's parent, someone's friend. Jiwoo had not forgotten, but she also had not understood what her grandmother meant until now. Tomorrow she would fight Cress, and after that there would be more fights. More opponents. More chances for something to go permanently wrong. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep, knowing that somewhere in the station, Quen was lying in a hospital bed, his arm shattered beyond repair, while his children waited for a father who would never be whole again. The fight with Cress lasted 23 seconds. Jiwoo moved differently this time. She knew the Vorlian could see attacks coming before they landed, so she did not try to be fast. Instead, she was precise. When Cress threw a combination with 4 of his 6 arms, Jiwoo slipped between the strikes and pressed her fingers against 7 points on his torso in rapid sequence. Cress froze. His eyes went wide. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then he collapsed like someone had cut his strings. The medical teams carried him away. Jiwoo stood in the center of the platform and waited for the referee to announce her victory. The crowd was silent. No one cheered. In the medical bay, the doctors discovered that Cress's nervous system had completely shut down. He could not see, hear, feel, taste, or smell anything. His body still worked, his heart still beat, his lungs still breathed, but he existed in total sensory darkness. The regeneration tanks could not fix it. The neural reconstruction procedures failed. After 3 days of trying everything they knew, the doctors moved Cress to a special facility where he would spend the rest of his life unable to perceive the world around him. The combat. Federation called an emergency meeting. Ji-woo was not invited to the meeting, but her uncle Hun-woo was. He returned to their quarters late that night looking tired and angry. "They want to stop you from fighting," he said. "Half the committee wants to ban you immediately. The other half says you have not broken any rules. What do you think I should do?" Ji-woo asked. "I think you should keep fighting," Hyun-woo said. "But I am your uncle and your coach. I am not objective. This decision has to be yours." Ji-woo's younger brother Won-sik arrived the next morning. He was a biomechanics researcher at the Earth Science Institute, and he had spent the last week analyzing recordings of Ji-woo's fights. "I need to show you something," Won-sik said. He pulled up holographic displays showing the internal structure of Quen and Cress. "Look at what your strikes actually did." The displays showed Ji-woo's attacks in slow motion, with colored overlays indicating different types of damage. In Quen's body, the strikes had created cascading fractures at the quantum level. In Cress, the nerve strikes had triggered a feedback loop that burned out entire sections of his sensory processing centers. "The damage is not random," Won-sik explained. "Your techniques are exploiting fundamental structural weaknesses. But these weaknesses exist because of how these species evolved. Tarvellians developed crystalline bones because their homeworld has low gravity and no large predators. Their bones never needed to handle the kind of focused impact you delivered. Forlians developed their fast nervous systems because they evolved from prey animals. Their whole neurology is built for quick reactions, not for the kind of sequential overload you triggered. So I am using their evolution against them," Ji-woo said quietly. "Basically, yes." Won-sik zoomed in on the nerve cluster Ji-woo had struck on Cress. "Humans evolved on a death world, high gravity, dangerous predators, constant warfare between tribes. We developed thick bones, redundant systems, and nervous systems that can take a beating and keep functioning. Our martial arts developed alongside our evolution. Every technique you know is designed to exploit weaknesses that humans also have, but we built our civilization around compensating for those weaknesses. Other species did not," Hyun-woo said. "Exactly. Most intelligent species evolved on relatively safe worlds. They developed technology before they developed complex fighting systems. Their medical science is amazing because they rarely needed to deal with severe trauma." Won-sik closed the hologram. "Our medical science is about fixing what can be fixed and living with what cannot be fixed. We understand permanent damage because we caused it to each other for thousands of years." A journalist named Sora contacted Ji-woo that afternoon. She worked for the Galactic Sports Network and wanted to do an interview. "People are scared of you," Sora said bluntly when they met. "They are calling you the human weapon. They are saying Earth sent you here to prove that humans are too dangerous to compete with other species." "Earth did not send me," Ji-woo said. "I chose to compete. But you knew what your techniques could do. I knew what they could do to humans. I did not know what they would do to aliens." Sora recorded the interview and broadcast it that evening. The response was immediate and divided. Some species called for humans to be banned from all combat sports. Others argued that banning effective techniques was against the spirit of competition. A few pointed out that many species had natural advantages like size, strength, or armor, and humans had to use skill to overcome those advantages. Ji-woo's third fight was against Thren, a Morthax who was 70% cybernetic. The Morthax believed in enhancing their bodies with technology, and Thren had replaced most of his organic parts with military-grade combat implants. Hyun-woo was worried about this fight. "I am not sure the old techniques will work on someone who is mostly machine," he said. "Then I will learn during the fight," Ji-woo said. The fight lasted 41 seconds. Thren was faster and stronger than any opponent Ji-woo had faced. His cybernetic arms could punch through steel. His targeting systems could track her movements in real time. But when Ji-woo struck the connection points where his cybernetics interfaced with his remaining organic tissue, something went catastrophically wrong. The cybernetics began rejecting his organic parts. The rejection spread through his whole body like a virus. Thren's implants started attacking his remaining organs, treating them as foreign objects that needed to be removed. The medical teams cut him out of his cybernetics to save his life, But the damage was done. Thren's body could no longer accept any cybernetic implants. He had to live in a life support exoskeleton, unable to feel or interact with the world directly. 3 fights, 3 opponents permanently disabled. The Combat Federation suspended all of Jiwoo's remaining matches pending a full investigation. She was not arrested or charged with any crime, but she was confined to the fighters' quarters while the committee decided what to do. Ambassador Daun arrived from Earth 2 days later. She was Earth's representative to the Federation Council, a sharp woman in her 50s who had spent 30 years navigating galactic politics. "You have created a diplomatic incident," Daun said without preamble. 4 species are calling for humans to be expelled from the Federation. 2 have threatened to leave if we are not expelled. The situation is very bad. "I did not break any rules," Jiwoo said. "No, you did not. But you broke 3 people who cannot be fixed. And that is making everyone realize that humans know how to cause damage that the rest of the galaxy does not know how to heal. Should I apologize? That is your choice. But an apology will not fix what is broken." Daeun sat down across from Jiwoo. "I need you to understand what is really happening here. This is not about sport anymore. This is about whether humans can be trusted. For 50 years we have been part of the galactic community. We have been the newcomers, the primitives from a violent world trying to prove we are civilized. And now you have reminded everyone where humans come from." "Earth," Jiwoo said. "A death world," Daeun corrected. "A planet where everything evolved to kill everything else. Where intelligence developed as a survival trait, not a social one. Where humans spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of hurting each other before we ever reached the stars." Wansik spoke up from the corner where he had been sitting quietly. "Is that true? Are humans really that different from other species?" "Yes," Daeun said simply. "Most intelligent species evolved from social prey animals or from omnivores that lived in stable environments. Humans evolved from persistence hunters on a world that was actively trying to kill us. We developed complex social structures not because we are naturally social, but because working together was the only way to survive. Our empathy exists alongside our capacity for violence, not instead of it." "So what happens now?" Jiwoo asked. "Now the Federation decides whether humans are too dangerous to integrate into galactic society, or whether we are valuable enough to be worth the risk." Daun stood up. "Your next fight is the championship finals. Your opponent is a Kelrathi named Velmon. He has won the championship 3 times. He is also the nephew of Council Arbiter Vexel." "The official who interviewed me," Jiwoo said. "Yes. Velmon has publicly stated that he will not withdraw from the fight. He says that running from a human opponent would dishonor his family and his species." Daeun walked to the door, then turned back. "The Federation is going to let the fight happen. They want to see if you can be beaten. If you can, then you are just a skilled fighter. If you cannot, then you are a problem that needs to be solved." After Daeun left, Jiwoo sat alone in her room. She pulled up recordings of Velmon's fights. He was good, very good, fast, strong, and smart. But as she watched him move, she saw the openings. The vulnerable points. The places where a human fighter could land a strike that would end the fight in seconds. She also saw something else. She saw a fighter who loved the sport, who bowed to his opponents, who helped them up after the match ended, who fought with honor and joy just like Quen, just like Cress, just like Thren. Hyunwoo found her an hour later, still watching the recordings. The championship finals never happened. Velmon withdrew from the match the morning it was scheduled to begin. His statement was brief. "I will not risk permanent injury to satisfy the crowd's curiosity about human capabilities. This is not cowardice. This is common sense." Jiwoo became champion by forfeit. The ceremony was quiet. No celebration, no cheering crowds. A small official pressed a medal into her hand and told her to leave the platform. The medal felt heavy like a stone rather than an honor. 3 days later, Jiwoo received an official summons to appear before the Federation High Court. The court was located on Meridian Station, a massive structure that orbited a blue giant star. The station was home to 50,000 beings from across the sector, all working to maintain the laws that kept 47 species living in relative peace. Jiwoo arrived with Ambassador Daeun, Uncle Hyunwoo, and Brother Wansik. They were met at the docking bay by a squad of security personnel who escorted them through white corridors to a chamber that could hold 5,000 spectators. Every seat was full. The charges were read by a prosecution official named Tershen, a being who looked like a column of flowing water held together by force fields. His voice echoed through the chamber. Jiwoo, human of Earth, you stand accused of violating Article 47 of the Combat Accords, specifically the use of techniques that cause irreparable harm beyond the scope of acknowledged medical intervention. How do you plead? Not guilty, Jiwoo said. Her voice sounded small in the huge space. The trial began. Tershen called his first witness. Quen entered the chamber, his shattered arm hanging useless at his side. He walked slowly to the witness platform. Please describe what happened during your match with the accused, Tershen said. Quen's voice was quiet but steady. She moved very fast. She hit me 3 times. My arm broke. It has not healed. The doctors say it never will. Can you still work? No, I was a construction engineer. I cannot operate the equipment with one arm. Can you care for your children? I cannot pick them up. I cannot hold them. My youngest daughter is afraid of me now because my arm looks wrong. Tershen nodded. Thank you. No further questions. Ambassador Da-Yun stood to cross-examine. Did Jiwoo break any rules during your match? No, Quen admitted. Did she use any weapons or illegal techniques as defined by the Combat Accords? No. Did you know before the match that she was trained in human martial arts? Yes, but I thought human martial arts were just like any other fighting style. I did not know they could do this. Thank you, Da-Yun said gently. The second witness was Cress. He was brought in on a floating chair, connected to machines that monitored his body. He could not see the court, could not hear the questions. A doctor spoke for him, reading from prepared statements that Cress had dictated before his sensory systems failed. The statement described what it was like to wake up in total darkness and silence. To know that your body was alive but to receive no input from the world. To exist in a void with only your thoughts for company. Several beings in the gallery left the chamber. One was crying. Thren was the third witness. He appeared via hologram from his life support chamber. His voice was synthesized by his exoskeleton's computer. She destroyed me, Thren said simply. I chose to enhance my body with the best technology my people could create. I spent 40 years integrating those enhancements, becoming faster and stronger. She undid all of it in seconds. Now I am trapped in this shell, unable to touch or feel anything. I will spend the rest of my life as a prisoner in my own body. When Thren's testimony ended, Tershen turned to face Jiwoo directly. The evidence is clear, he said. Human martial arts are not simply fighting techniques. They are weapons designed to cause permanent, irreparable harm. The accused may not have intended to cause this level of damage, but intent is irrelevant. The damage exists. 3 beings have lost their ability to live normal lives because of techniques that should never have been used in a sporting context. Ambassador Da-Yun stood. If the prosecution is finished, the defense would like to present its case. The prosecution rested. Da-Yun called her first witness. Wonsik took the platform. He brought holographic displays and technical readouts. For the next hour, he explained the science behind what had happened. Humans evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme weather, dangerous predators, and constant competition for resources. Wonsik said, to survive, humans developed bodies that were incredibly resilient. Dense bones, redundant organs, nervous systems that could continue functioning, even with significant damage. We also developed intelligence, and we used that intelligence to study our own weaknesses. The holograms showed human anatomy with weak points highlighted in red. There were hundreds of them. Over thousands of years, humans developed fighting systems that exploited these weak points. We call them martial arts, but they are really applied anatomy. Every technique is designed to disrupt specific biological systems in specific ways. And because humans are so resilient, our martial arts had to be extremely precise and powerful to be effective. Wonsik changed the display to show alien anatomy. Most other species evolved in safer environments. Their bodies did not need the same level of redundancy. Their skeletons are lighter, their nervous systems are more efficient, their organs are more specialized. This makes them vulnerable to techniques that were designed to work on much tougher human bodies. So you are saying humans are naturally more dangerous than other species? Tershen interrupted. No, Wonsik said firmly. I am saying humans developed in a more dangerous environment, and our combat techniques reflect that environment. A Tarvelian could probably crack human bones with a casual grip because of their strength. A Vorlian could dodge human attacks that seem impossibly fast to us. A Morthax with cybernetics could overpower a human easily. Every species has advantages. Humans compensate for our lack of natural weapons by being very, very good at understanding how bodies break. Ambassador Dayun stood. The prosecution argues that human martial arts are too dangerous for sporting competition. But the real question is whether Jiwoo violated any existing rules. The answer is no. She used techniques that were not banned. She caused damage that no one expected could be caused. But she did not cheat, she did not use weapons, and she did not break any laws. She broke people, Tershin said coldly. Yes, she did, and that is terrible. But the fault lies not with the fighter who used legal techniques, but with the system that did not understand those techniques before allowing them in competition. The next witness was Hyun-woo. He explained the history of his family's martial arts tradition. After the digital collapse, most of Earth's historical records were lost, Hyun-woo said. My family saved what we could. Training manuals, fighting techniques, the knowledge that our ancestors developed over 10,000 years. We kept it alive in secret because we knew that if humanity ever needed to defend itself, these techniques might be the only advantage we have. Defend itself against what? Asked one of the judges. A being made of crystallized light. Against a galaxy that might decide we are too dangerous to exist, Hyun-woo said quietly. The chamber fell silent. Ambassador Dayun called her final witness. Jiwoo took the platform. Tell us why you entered the championship, Dayun said. I wanted to prove that humans could compete, Jiwoo said. I wanted to show that we are not just the newcomers from the violent world. I wanted to win. Did you know your techniques would cause permanent damage? No, I thought the medical teams could fix anything. That is what everyone said. That is what the rules assumed. Do you regret what happened? Jiwoo looked at Quen sitting in the gallery with his broken arm. She looked at Cress trapped in darkness. She looked at Thren's hologram, a man imprisoned in his own life support system. Yes, she said, I regret it more than I can say. But I will not apologize for being good at what I do. Humans spent thousands of years learning how to fight. We did not do this for sport. We did it because our world was trying to kill us every single day. The techniques I used are not cruelty. They are survival skills that my ancestors needed to stay alive. But you are not fighting for survival now, Tershin said. You were fighting for sport. Yes, and that was my mistake. I brought tools designed for life and death into an arena that thought it was safe. I did not understand the difference. The judges deliberated for 3 days. Jiwoo spent that time in her quarters waiting. When they finally called her back to the chamber, all 5 judges were present. The lead judge, an ancient being whose species name translated to something like Starkeeper, spoke in a voice like distant thunder. We have reached a decision. The accused Jiwoo did not violate any existing law. However, her actions have revealed a gap in our understanding of human capabilities. Therefore, we rule as follows. The chamber held its breath. First, Jiwoo is cleared of all charges. Second, her championship title is revoked. Third, all techniques that cause quantum cellular disruption, cascading structural failure, or permanent sensory damage are hereby banned from all sanctioned combat sports. This ruling will be known as the Humanity Clause. Relief washed over Jiwoo. She was not going to prison. She was not going to be executed. Then the judge continued. Fourth, Earth must submit all documented human combat techniques to the Federation Science Division for review. 6 months after the trial, Federation officials arrived at the Mountain Cloud School in South Korea. The school was old, built into the side of a mountain where Jiwoo's ancestors had taught martial arts for 300 years. The current master was an elderly woman named Haewon, who had trained Jiwoo's grandmother. We are here to catalog your fighting techniques, the lead official said. He was a Therosian, tall and thin with too many joints in his arms. This is required under the Humanity Clause. No, Haewon said simply. This is not optional. Compliance is mandatory. Then arrest me. Haewon sat down on the training hall floor and did not move. The officials left without the information they came for. 2 days later, they returned with security forces. They found the school empty. Master Haewon was gone. The training scrolls were gone. Even the wooden practice weapons had been removed. The same scene played out across Earth. In Brazil, a capoeira school closed its doors and disappeared into the rainforest. In Russia, a Systema Academy burned all its records. In China, 3 kung fu masters vanished with their students into the mountains. The martial arts underground, which had existed in secret since the digital collapse, went deeper underground. Ji-woo learned about this from her uncle. Hyun-woo came to her apartment in Seoul one evening and told her he was leaving. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Somewhere the Federation cannot find me. There is a network forming. Schools that refuse to submit their knowledge. Masters who remember when governments tried to control martial arts before." Hyun-woo looked tired. "Your grandmother saw this coming. She always said that power wants to control anything it fears, and teaching people how to fight makes power very afraid. Is this my fault? No, this was always going to happen. You just made it happen sooner." Hyun-woo put his hand on her shoulder. "The question is what you are going to do now." Ji-woo did not know what to do. She was not allowed to compete. Her championship title had been revoked. Most people recognized her on the street and either stared or looked away quickly. She had become a symbol of something frightening. Then, 3 weeks after Hyun-woo disappeared, Ji-woo received a visitor. His name was Tae-yang. He was a Corvellan, a species that looked almost human except for the ridge of bone that ran from their forehead down their spine. He wore expensive clothes and carried himself like someone used to getting what he wanted. "I want to hire you as a teacher," Tae-yang said. "I am not taking students," Ji-woo replied. "I will pay you very well, enough that you would never need to work again." "Money does not interest me." Tae-yang smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Then perhaps you are interested in justice. The humanity clause is unfair. It targets your species specifically. It forces Earth to give up knowledge while other species keep their advantages. I represent a group of fighters from 12 different species who believe the Federation has grown weak. We want to learn what makes human martial arts so effective. We want to level the playing field. By learning how to permanently damage your opponents. By learning how to win." Tae-yang leaned forward. "The Federation pretends that everyone is equal, but we both know that is a lie. Some species are stronger, faster, tougher. Humans compensated by becoming smarter about fighting. We want that same knowledge. We want to be able to defend ourselves with the same effectiveness that humans have. Then develop your own martial arts. That would take thousands of years. Or we could learn from humans who have already done the work." Ji-woo showed Tae-yang to the door. "My answer is no," but Tae-yang did not give up. He sent messages. He sent gifts. He sent documentation showing that his organization was legitimate, that they had funding and support from beings who felt the Federation was treating combat sports unfairly. Then he sent something that made Ji-woo reconsider. A video message from Quen. In the video, Quen sat in a simple room. His broken arm hung at his side. He looked directly at the camera. "I heard that you are being asked to teach others," Quen said. "I want you to know that I do not blame you for what happened to me. You were competing within the rules. The rules were inadequate, but that was not your fault. However, I am asking you not to teach your techniques to others. What happened to me was terrible, but it was an accident. If you deliberately teach others how to cause this kind of damage, it will not be an accident anymore. It will be a choice." The message ended. Ji-woo sat in silence for a long time. Then she called Ambassador Da-eun. "I need to know something," Ji-woo said. "Is the Federation actually trying to learn our martial arts, or are they just trying to catalog them?" There was a pause. Then Da-eun said, "Come to my office. This conversation needs to happen in person." Ambassador Da-eun's office was in Geneva, in the Earth Federation building. The room had windows that looked out over the lake. Da-eun was there with 2 other people, one sick and a woman Ji-woo did not recognize. "This is Colonel Park Min-ji," Da-eun said. "She is with Earth Defense Intelligence." Min-ji was in her 40s, with short hair and the kind of posture that came from military training. She pulled up holographic displays without preamble. "The Federation is not just cataloging human martial arts," Min-ji said. "They are studying them. Specifically, they are trying to develop countermeasures, but they are also trying to weaponize them." The display showed classified documents from Federation military research facilities, test results, training programs, analysis of Ji-woo's fights broken down to individual muscle movements. "They are training special forces units," Min-ji continued. "The official reason is to prepare for conflict with the Shell Dominion. The Shell are an aggressive empire on the far border of the sector. They have been making territorial moves for the past decade. The Federation military believes that war is coming, and they want every advantage they can get. They want to use human techniques against the Shell," Ji-woo said. "Yes. But here is the problem. One Sikh brought up another set of displays. I have been working with xenobiologists to study the shell. They are carbon-based humanoids very similar to humans in structure, which means that human martial arts will work on them exactly the way they work on humans. Painful, damaging, but not permanently disabling. So what is the problem? Jiwoo asked. The problem is that once the Federation knows how these techniques work, they can reverse engineer them, Wansik said. They can analyze the strike patterns, the pressure points, the ways that human anatomy is vulnerable, and they can develop weapons or training specifically designed to exploit those vulnerabilities. The room fell silent. Are you saying the Federation might use our own martial arts against us? Jiwoo asked. I am saying that knowledge is a weapon, Minji said quietly, and we just gave that weapon to people who are already afraid of us. Dayun stood and walked to the window. This is why resistance movements are forming. The masters who are going underground are not just protecting cultural heritage. They are protecting Earth's security. If our martial knowledge becomes public, humanity loses one of the few advantages we have. But the Humanity Clause requires us to submit that knowledge, Jiwoo said. The Humanity Clause is being ignored by most of Earth, Dayun said. The Federation has been issuing citations and fines. Some schools have been raided, but they cannot arrest every martial artist on the planet, and they cannot force knowledge out of people who refuse to give it. Jiwoo thought about her uncle, hiding somewhere with other masters. She thought about Haewon and the Mountain Cloud School, empty and abandoned. She thought about thousands of years of human knowledge being driven back into secrecy. What do you want me to do? She asked. That is your choice, Minji said. But I can tell you what is happening. Resistance networks are forming. Not just martial artists, but historians, scientists, cultural preservationists. They are creating archives in secret locations. They are teaching the next generation in hidden schools. They are preparing for a future where humanity might need these skills not for sport, but for survival. You want me to join them? I want you to understand what is at stake, Minji said. Tae Yang and his organization are not the only ones asking humans to teach. The Federation military has approached several masters with job offers. Some have accepted. Most have refused. But every time a human teaches these techniques to a non-human, we lose control of that knowledge, Wansik added. I have been contacted 3 times by xenobiology research groups wanting to study human combat techniques. They offer research grants, academic positions, access to advanced laboratories. They make it sound like pure science. But every paper published, every technique documented, every training video recorded becomes information that can be used against us. Jiwoo looked at the 3 of them. You are asking me to never teach anyone. I am asking you to be careful about who you teach and why, Daun said. Your grandmother kept knowledge alive through secrecy. Perhaps that is what this generation needs to do as well. That night, Jiwoo made her decision. She rented a warehouse in an industrial district of Seoul. She did not advertise. She did not announce her plans. She simply sent messages to 20 people she had trained with over the years. Young fighters who understood what martial arts meant, who had families that remembered the old ways. 19 of them came. Jiwoo stood in the center of the empty warehouse and looked at the faces around her. 2 years after Jiwoo started her secret academy, the war began. The Shell Dominion attacked 3 Federation border colonies without warning. Their warriors moved through defensive positions like they knew exactly where and how to strike. Federation soldiers fell with injuries that did not make sense. Broken bones from strikes that should not have broken bones. Paralyzed nervous systems from simple hand strikes. Officers disabled by touches to their necks. The Federation military reviewed combat recordings and made a terrible discovery. The Shell were using human martial arts. Somehow they had obtained training videos from Jiwoo's fights. Somehow they had learned to analyze and replicate the techniques. Somehow they had turned humanity's advantage into a weapon against the Federation. The emergency council meeting was held 3 days after the 3rd colony fell. Ambassador Daeun attended via hologram from Earth. Council Arbiter Vexel stood at the center of the chamber. The situation is critical, Vexel said. The Shell have destroyed our border defenses using techniques we banned from sporting competition. Our soldiers cannot defend against attacks they do not understand. We need help. You need human help, Daeun said bluntly. Specifically, you need the martial artists you have been trying to arrest for the past 2 years. Yes. Vexel did not try to deny it. We need teachers. We need fighters. We need anyone who understands these techniques and can teach our soldiers how to counter them. Why should Earth help you? You passed the humanity clause. You tried to control our knowledge. You raided our schools and arrested our masters. Because if the Federation falls, Earth falls with it, Vexel said quietly. The shell will not stop at the border colonies. They are moving toward the core systems. Your system. If we do not stop them, they will come for Earth. Dayun ended the call without responding. 3 hours later, she contacted Jiwoo. The Federation wants our help, Dayun said. They want you specifically. Jiwoo was in her warehouse training with her students. She had 43 now, all learning the banned techniques in secret, all preparing for a future they hoped would never come. What do they want me to do? Jiwoo asked. Teach their soldiers how to fight the shell. More importantly, teach them how to defend against the techniques the shell learned from watching you. No. Jiwoo, listen to me. This is bigger than pride or politics. If the Federation loses this war, billions of beings will die, including humans. Then maybe the Federation should not have tried to take our knowledge by force. Dayun was quiet for a moment. What would it take for you to help? Jiwoo thought about Quen, permanently disabled. About Cress living in sensory darkness. About Thren trapped in his life support system. She thought about the price of her victory, the cost of being too good at what she did. I want the humanity clause revoked, Jiwoo said. Completely. I want all charges against martial artists dropped. I want Earth to get 3 new council seats, and I want a guarantee that any technique I teach to Federation soldiers, I can also teach to human defensive forces. No secrets, no special knowledge that only the military gets. That is a tall order. That is my price. Ambassador Dayun negotiated for a week. The Federation Council met an emergency session 4 times. In the end, they agreed to everything. The humanity clause was revoked. All arrested masters were released. Earth was given 5 council seats instead of 3. And most importantly, a new law was passed. Any combat knowledge shared with Federation forces must be made available to all member species for defensive training. Jiwoo arrived at Federation military training facility, Gamma 7, 3 weeks after the agreement was signed. She brought her uncle Hyunwoo, who had come out of hiding. She brought Won-sik, who would help develop medical protocols. She brought 12 of her best students. The base commander was a Keltharian named Morchen. He met Jiwoo at the landing bay. We have 200 soldiers waiting for training, Morchen said. They are from 15 different species. How long will it take to teach them? Teach them what? Jiwoo asked. How to fight like you. That takes years. I can teach them how to defend against human techniques in 3 months. We do not have 3 months. The shell are advancing. We need something faster. Jiwoo looked at the soldiers assembled in the training yard. They looked scared and determined in equal measure. I can teach them the basics in 3 weeks, Jiwoo said. But they need to understand something first. Human martial arts are not magic. They are applied knowledge of anatomy and physics. The shell learned to copy the movements, but they do not understand the principles. That is their weakness. The training began the next day. Jiwoo stood in front of 200 soldiers and said, Human martial arts are based on understanding how bodies work and how they break. Every species has different anatomy, which means every species has different vulnerable points. For the next 3 weeks, we are going to study your bodies, not human bodies, your bodies. And we are going to learn how to protect those vulnerable points. Won-sik brought in holographic anatomical displays for each species. He showed the soldiers where their critical nerve clusters were located, where their bones were weakest, where strikes would cause the most damage. This feels wrong, one soldier said. You are teaching us our own weaknesses. Yes, Jiwoo said. Because if you know where you are weak, you can defend those areas. The shell know human weak points. They do not know yours. That is your advantage. The training was intense. Jiwoo taught blocking techniques, evasion patterns, and counter-strikes specific to each species' physiology. Hyunwoo worked with the larger species on using their size to their advantage. The students from Jiwoo's academy taught smaller groups specialized techniques. 3 weeks later, the trained soldiers deployed to the front lines. The results were immediate. Federation forces stopped collapsing when they met shell warriors. Soldiers who understood their own vulnerabilities could protect themselves. Soldiers who learned proper defensive posture could survive encounters that would have disabled them before. But the war was far from over. The shell adapted. They changed their tactics. They began targeting supply lines and command centers instead of engaging in direct combat. The war became a battle of intelligence and strategy rather than individual fighting skill. Then the shell attacked Meridian Station. The assault came without warning. 30 shell warships dropped out of hyperspace around the station. They deployed drop pods full of warriors directly into the station's docking bays. Jiwoo was on the station, attending a military strategy meeting when the attack began. Alarms rang through the corridors. Security forces scrambled to defensive positions. And then she saw him, Tae Yang. The Corvellan who had asked her to teach him 2 years ago was leading a squad of shell warriors through the station corridors. "You," Jiwoo said. Tae Yang smiled. "I told you I wanted to learn human martial arts. You refused to teach me." "The shell did not refuse. You betrayed the Federation. I joined the winning side." "The shell understand that strength matters, that being able to hurt your enemies matters. The Federation wants everyone to play fair and be safe. That is weakness." Tae Yang attacked. He was good. The shell had taught him well. He used the same strikes Jiwoo had used against Quen, the same nerve attacks she had used against Cress. But he did not understand the techniques the way Jiwoo did. He copied the movements without understanding the principles. Jiwoo defended. She did not counterattack. She simply blocked and evaded, watching how Tae Yang moved. "Fight back," Tae Yang snarled. "No," Jiwoo said. She continued to defend, studying his patterns, and then she saw it. The opening. The moment when Tae Yang overcommitted to a strike and left himself vulnerable. Jiwoo moved. Not to hurt him permanently, but to disable him. A strike to the nerve cluster in his leg. A pressure point on his arm. A touch to his neck that made him dizzy. Tae Yang collapsed, conscious but unable to move. "The difference between us," Jiwoo said quietly, "is that I know when to stop." The battle for Meridian Station lasted 6 hours. Federation forces, trained in defensive techniques, held critical positions. The shell warriors, despite their knowledge of human martial arts, could not break through soldiers who knew how to protect their vulnerable points. In the end, the shell retreated. They had failed to capture the station. More importantly, they had learned that copying techniques was not the same as understanding combat. The war continued for another year. Slowly, the Federation pushed the shell back, not through superior violence, but through better defense and smarter strategy. The soldiers Jiwoo trained became teachers themselves, spreading knowledge throughout the Federation forces. The turning point came when a shell warlord named Kelron contacted the Federation Council asking for negotiations. The shell had realized they could not win a war of attrition against an enemy that could adapt faster than they could advance. Ambassador Da-un led the peace negotiations. Jiwoo was asked to attend as a military advisor. The negotiations took place on a neutral space station at the border between Federation and Shell territory. Kelron was a massive being, nearly 8 feet tall with armor built into his skeleton. "You have fought well," Kelron said to Jiwoo. "Your techniques are impressive." "They are just techniques," Jiwoo replied. "Tools. What matters is understanding when to use them."